We are in a triathlon. Actually, we're more in like an ultra Ironman that no one signed up for, no one trained for, and there is no finish line in sight. This type of crisis that we are all in right now needs to be conquered. But how? Because we're already in it. Well, I believe that we must, to conquer crisis, train like a triathlete. Our body, our mind, and our business. We can train our bodies, but that does not protect our minds from being hijacked by stress, overwhelm, and even fear. And we can train our bodies, except that doesn't protect us from our bodies being overwhelmed with the fear that we have then grabbed onto. And we can train our business so we can be productive and profitable. At the same time, the only way to sustain that is by training the mind and the body connection so that we can go the distance and cross the finish line. Most of us are really great at one of the three, right? Just like a triathlete, we typically are good at one of the three sports. Maybe you're great at swimming, or you've got the rundown. That's kind of my area. Or maybe for you, it's the biking. But most of the time as a triathlete, you're great in one sport, you're okay in the other, and quite frankly, the third one, not so good at all. But you train in all three, just like we need to do to be able to succeed over the long haul in work and in life. We must train our body, our mind, and our business. So for you, the business might feel like you've got that on all cylinders, you're really going. Or some of you may feel like your strongest sport is the mind. You really have your mind game down. Others of you, it's the body. The challenge is we need to bring all three into sync: our body, our mind, and our business. But in this state of crisis, fear has kind of hijacked us. It totally throws us off our game. Fear is a powerful emotion. In fact, my greatest fear ever since I was a little kid was plummeting to my death. I mean, crazy dream, again and again, I guess nightmare you might say. I found myself falling down this spiraled staircase, the center of it where there's just no bottom. And for some reason, that was a consistent nightmare I had as a child. So plummeting to my death was a great fear. Now, it's kind of odd people question that because I'm quite the adventurer. If you know much about me, you know that I've taken people to climb to the top of Kilimanjaro for leadership experiences. I've also taken people to work alongside of Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity in Calcutta and Ethiopia, and the Home for the Dying and the Home for the Children. I've rock climbed. I've glacier climbed. I was in an outrigger racing team. I've done triathlons and marathons. And most of all, probably the most challenging, the most fear-based, were parenthood and being an entrepreneur, something we can all relate to. But fear has this ability to completely hijack us and get us off course. So, my greatest fear, falling to my death? Well, I had the opportunity. In fact, I was with a group of CEOs and we were all on this amazing leadership adventure, and we were in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we had this opportunity to go on a hot air balloon ride. And there were enough of us to be able to fill 3 balloons. So everyone knew that Jill's the adventurer, but guess what? I drew a line. I said, time out. I'm not going. You guys go ahead. I'm gonna cheer you on. It looks like an amazing experience, but I had finally decided, no, I'm not choosing to go. And I felt pretty confident about that decision, and actually nobody really pushed me on it because it was very out of character. So they're blowing up the balloons. I went to cheer them on. Everybody's in their balloon, and it is a gorgeous day. So the 3 balloons were amazing. My friends were all in them. They're ready to take off. The pilots were experienced, and I was excited to cheer them on. However, at the very last second, they are getting ready to take off. I'm at peace on the ground. Again, greatest fear, plummeting to my death. And this adventure side of me, my adventurous spirit, jumped out. I threw myself into the basket, literally at the last second, where I didn't have a chance to make any other decisions or to bail. So that's what I did. I jumped in the basket. The minute I got in there, we were taking off, and I was like gripping the side, like, what did I do? This is my greatest fear. Why would I have chosen this? And up we go with some of my dearest friends in this amazing experience. And now I'm like, why did I keep myself from this? It was a gorgeous fall day. The sun was bright and shining, and the mountainside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, exquisite. So it was such a majestic, amazing experience, and I was exhilarated until the pilot said, well, we're beginning to go a little out of the way. In fact, the other two balloons were way over there. And he goes, I'm going to try to take us down and catch the current, but the current's kind of taking us a little funky way. And I'm aware, but realize he's 20 years of experience. We're having such a great time, and I don't give in to the fear yet. And then about 10 minutes later, he says, it's kind of odd. It's never happened before, by the way, but my radio just went dead. But no worries, because the sag wagon is following, and I guess that's the traditional thing that you do. A truck follows to be able to pick up the balloon at the end. And so I don't really worry yet. And then he goes on to say, we're running a little low on fuel. Okay, at that point, I'm like, what's going on? And he shares, by the way, we are now going to make an emergency landing. We're coming close to power lines, running low on fuel. At this point, I'm like, my worst nightmare has just come into this basket, and I am living it. So we start coming down in these trees. Now, as a former occupational therapist who's actually worked with spinal cord patients, I know and worked with a patient that literally fell out of a bunk bed and became a paraplegic, not being able to walk from the waist down at 21 years old. So I was not a fool. I understood what could happen. Half the balloon's like, woohoo, because they have no concept of the danger that we are in. And half the balloon is like, because we know what could unfold. And we come down through these trees, and it is terrifying. And as we make it down, finally we hit the ground. Bam! The basket completely goes on the side. I'm at the bottom of the basket, completely on the side. It was overwhelming. The basket rights itself, and my buddies start getting out. And I'm like, whoa, what about me? I was the scared one. They're all popping out. My turn, and literally the basket's about up to here, because I'm not too tall. And I'm getting ready to climb out, and guess what happens? The basket takes off again. Now it's got the pilot and just me in it. And at that point, I am like a dice in the bottom of a Yahtzee cup. I'm getting thrown around. And all these different things happen when you're in a total crisis. So one side is terrified of what's happening, but there's another side that starts kicking in. Everything's slowed down. And I'm looking at the pilot's saying, don't jump. And I'm like, jump? Why would I jump? But then I'm thinking, wait a minute, if he gets pulled out, I need to jump. Thank God I loved to climb trees as a kid. I may be up 30, 40 feet in the air in a tree. Another side's like, okay, motivational speaker dies facing her greatest fear. Yeah, okay, I kind of like that as a headline. And another side of me is just like, okay, think through how you're going to get through this, and I am being tossed and turned. All of this happens in such a short period of time, and I know we are at the edge of the forest near power lines. Sure enough, thanks be to God, we crash land at the very edge. Now, it was so overwhelming that the ambulance is coming, the fire trucks are coming, and we've got people running, certain that we're gone, that we're dead, that it's over. And the news comes to film how we survived this hot air balloon wreck. Fear, I know it, and so do you. And it hijacks the brain, it overwhelms. And in the midst of crisis, it can keep us from conquering it, instead feeling smashed by the crisis itself. And what we're wanting to do now is face the crisis in our own lives and train like a triathlete. Body, mind, and business. Do you realize that 550 million workdays are missed each year due to job-related stress? And do you also realize that 300 billion is lost in productivity, also due to workplace stress? Now, these were pre-COVID statistics. Now, let me just give you a little insight. I'm sure that you already have. Stress in the time of COVID, according to the American Psychological Association, it says this: the negative mental health effects of the coronavirus will be serious and long-lasting, and it's affecting every aspect of American life, and not to mention global life, but it's affecting every aspect of us, from the area of health, education, well-being, family, and physical health and well-being across the board. And we are going to have to deal with these. So here's the deal: we can't push the pause button on the crisis. We must train like a triathlete in the midst of it, so that we then, as we come into sync, body, mind, business, we can go the distance. We can succeed over the long haul without burning ourselves out. But what I recognized, stress was already over the top. With every Fortune 500 company I've spoken to, whether I've worked with executives to employees or keynoting, whether it's with Boeing or Edison or American Express or Coca-Cola, everyone was already pre-COVID dealing with the highest levels of stress they have ever experienced in their lives. So now we have even more we've got to tackle. Is it possible? Yes. How do we do it? Through the mind-body connection. This is one of the key ways in which we can overcome and conquer crisis. So we have these two systems. Well, actually, it's one major system, but two sides to it that is brilliant and takes over and is part of our mind-body connection. We have the parasympathetic system and we have the sympathetic system. Now, the parasympathetic system is this amazing system that we're supposed to spend the majority of our time in. This particular system is meant to help us rest, have an incredible night's sleep. It's the system that helps us digest our foods and our experiences. It's the side where our innovation and creativity come alive. It's the side that rejuvenates and replenishes us. That's where we're supposed to be spending the majority of our time. However, the sympathetic system is our emergency signal, right? It's the part that gets set off when we are dealing with high levels of stress and supposed to react in a nanosecond. That's when everything goes into high alert. Just like that. That is exactly what happens when our sympathetic system goes off. It just jars everything, makes the mind and body come into a place of high alert. Let's get moving forward, right? And let's take action. So let's protect ourselves. Well, it's wild because the system that we have had created for us, it's all led by the amygdala. The amygdala is about the size of an almond. This tiny little amygdala is our alarm system. And what that does when that sets off, it overwhelms. Just like when I was in the hot air balloon experience and the crash, that amygdala sent me into a place of being able to deal with that emergency and that heightened level of crisis. Well, it's a great tool, right? And we need it. And I'm thankful for it because we honestly wouldn't be here without it. But what happens to most of us is that it gets stuck on. We get in this place of overwhelm, in this place of heightened sympathetic system. So we go into fight, we go into flight, or we even go into freeze. And that I see happening in today more than ever before because of the crisis that we're in. So that part is what we want to recognize. How do we bring the sympathetic and the parasympathetic back into sync with each other? That's the key. So here's what it's like. When we're designed in our parasympathetic system, things are more relaxed, right? We have an ability to respond, not react. Our breath is slower, more deep. Our ability to sleep and even innovate and collaborate is really strong when we are in a place where our parasympathetic system is responding. Rest, digest, refuel. However, once we get stressed, what happens? The muscles get tighter, the breath gets shorter, the anxiety grows, we get tighter, we react more than respond, and we get all tied up in knots. body, mind. And what does it reflect into? Oh yeah, our business. It totally turns us upside down. It keeps us so tight and squished that we don't have the ability to get back to this parasympathetic system, which is a place of rest, digest, and refuel. So this is what we're talking about. While this can happen for a short period of time, it's hijacking the ability where this is where we're meant to be most of our time. So as we begin to train and come into an awareness of our parasympathetic system and our sympathetic system, I want to take you into understanding an athlete. Simone Biles, one of the greatest athletes of all time, a gold Olympic gymnast. Now this woman has learned something that I believe we need to learn. So when she's on the balance beam, where is she? Well, her body's on the balance beam, of course. It's there, right? But where's her mind? Is her mind saying, gosh, I really hope I don't fall off the balance beam, man, I'm really scared? Or is her mind 100% locked, loaded, and in alignment with where her body is? If she's thinking thoughts like, I could fall, I might blow this, I guarantee you she never would have gotten to the gold. And her business was to win the gold. So she practiced day in and day out, whether she felt like it or not. She trained her body, her mind, and her business to come into sync. And as she did that, that is where she hit the gold. So when I was teaching this exact same material to a group of YPO CEO executives, what they discovered was this. They began to wake up. Bill Bice said this, Jill, I realize that I am not training and I need to be training. In fact, I just show up on Monday morning and I expect myself to operate at peak potential at the CEO of my company. I don't train my body, my mind, or my business to come into sync. It was such a wake-up call for him. But here's the deal. We're all in this triathlon of life, whether you want to face it or not. And the only way to come out succeed sustainably over a long period of time, so you are reaching your potential consistently, is to train all aspects of your being, your body, your mind, and your business. So ultimately, the key is integration. It's not more information. I'm not going to throw at you more things you need to know because guess what? You already know them. Google has the market cornered on information, but we need to transform that information into integration into all aspects of us. So we're going to start with the body, and we're just going to go lightly into all of this because, quite frankly, this is a lot deeper, and I go into real depth, whether executive coaching or leadership development training. We can go a lot deeper with this, but I want to give you a taste of what I'm talking about. So maybe you can begin to walk away with one action step that you will take from this time together that might begin to help you train your body, your mind, or your business and begin to bring you back into sync. You ready for it? I am. Let's get going. So the body's designed to move. And if you have a body that can move, it needs to move. And every time I have challenged any client or any audience that I've worked with is when we take a physical movement towards, right, a shift and a change, often it becomes a domino effect. So it has a way of empowering us. Now that can be as simple as through our breath. Doesn't even have to be a physical movement if your body is not able. But if it is, get it moving. Whether it's yoga, whether it's running, whether it is Pilates, I don't care what it is, start moving consistently because your body will shift and change and it will affect the mind as you move forward. So this is not optional and it is pivotal. Don't underestimate this. And when you see this amazing slide about all these different ways that the body is stimulated and the mind based on what you choose to do, it's extraordinary. And what I want you to do is I want you to pull out your assessment. Okay, now here's the gig. I know what you're gonna wanna do. You're gonna wanna answer this and you're gonna be in your prefrontal cortex and you're gonna be saying, yeah, well, you know, and kind of just really tough on yourself rather than looking at it from a different viewpoint. So you're gonna take this assessment in a very different way. So bear with me, I'm gonna tell you what this is gonna look like. So I'm asking you to come at this not from the brain and the prefrontal cortex that's gonna be critical. or judgmental. Okay? What I'm asking you to do is come at this from a place of observation. So here's how we typically take an assessment as adults, right? So let's say this is you. Okay? Here you are, right? And you are thinking about yourself and assessing yourself. So when you do that, you're pretty much sort of in this inner circle here. And typically the thoughts are what? Judgment. You are being judged harshly, typically, by yourself. And what does that lead to? A downward spiral. Well, neuroscience shows us, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you go that route, change is not going to happen. It just won't. You cannot negatively assess yourself and expect to get yourself where you want to go. What you've got to do is begin to learn something I call observation. This is where you come as if you're coaching yourself. You want to learn how to observe you. So you're outside yourself, taking a look in, right? And as you take a look in, and as you observe yourself, from the outside in, you begin to take stock and appreciate what you're already doing. So if you look at the first part of this assessment, you may go, nah, Jill's just like making me feel good. The third page on your assessment begins with, what are you already doing to train your body, your mind, or your business? And you're thinking, Jill just wants me to feel good. No, actually, it's neuroscience. I want you to acknowledge what you're already doing from an observing standpoint so that you can then open the mind for change. This is the way, the precursor of how we get there. The second thing I want you to do is, what does it look like? What does it feel like, smell like, taste like? Involve your senses. When you do that, you again begin to open up and prime the pump to embrace change, not push change away. This is the way we open the door to integration versus just information. And finally, the third question is, what is your why? Why does it even matter to you? I have people from Boeing and American Express, some of them will say, you know why it matters to me? Is honestly, if I take care of my body and bring it into sync, but they pick one action step based on the assessment, then they go, you know what, it's transformed my life. I want to be around for my grandkids. Some people, I want to sustain a high level of peak performance at my work because I believe in what I'm doing. So what is your why behind it? And that's your fuel. When you don't feel like doing it, you go back to your why. So all of this is very purposeful. Then the following page, I only want you to take a peek at the body. And this, I have a lot more involved assessment when we work on this together or we go into deep leadership training. But right now I want you to just take a peek. And what you're going to do is, where are you right now? No judgment, just observation in the area of the body, just the yellow area. And what is it that you kind of notice bubbles to the top? One of those may be something you've already had an inkling that you wanted to do. Like, for example, it might be to hydrate more. So you're going to carry bottles of water around, or it may be you're just going to make sure that you get a walk-in 3 times a week. Or for some of you, it's going to be, you know what, yoga 3 times a week. That's what I need to integrate into my life. And I'm going to choose to do it for 30 days, regardless of how I feel. Why? Because of your why, right? That's why you're going to begin to stick with this. And as we begin to make that one small shift, it begins to open up a domino effect of this empowerment to integrate change in your own life. So that's what I want you to do right now for just a moment. And I want you to write down, just listen as an observer. This will already be a practice for you. Taking it to the point where you're raising your awareness, observing yourself, and what areas. Great, jump out to you. As you get clear on this, whether it's weightlifting or whether it's walking or breathing or hydration, whichever one thing bubbles to the top, just give it a circle. Now we're moving on to the mind. And this is the place where so much occurs, where we can absolutely, completely and utterly sabotage ourselves or set ourselves free. So let me ask you this question. How many thoughts do you think we have in a day? Well, science says, from what they can tell, we have about 60,000 thoughts in a day. It's a lot of thoughts. right? Some of us a little more, some of us a little less. But of these 60,000 thoughts in a day, how many do you think might be repetitive? The same thought again and again. Oh yeah, you're following me now, aren't you? It's close to like 85 to 90%, right? To 90% are repetitive. The same thought. But here's the next quick question. What percentage of the repetitive thoughts are negative? What do you think? Well, I think for an awful lot of us, it's around the 90 percentile that are absolutely negative. Those thoughts, what do you think they do to you? What do those thoughts do to your body? What do they do to your mind? How do they sabotage you? Oh yeah, they do. You and I both know that. But what's happened is we've gotten into a pattern, and then we create this neuro pathway that just starts spewing out and repeating it again and again and again. Do you think that Simone Biles deals with that? Oh no. She had to train her mind to see nothing but success, to see nothing but she is on target, to feel it in her body and her mind at the same time. So when we start to wake up to the fact that our mind is actually sabotaging us, we have a choice. We can actually change the way we think. So my next question is, how long do you think it takes for an emotion to move through the body? Well, we feel it, right? We feel this emotion within us, and it sets off a chain reaction. And what happens is, if you look at a toddler, let's say, right? A toddler, usually they get maybe they bite a friend or they give them a kick, and within what? 90 seconds, they're back to normal. They're hugging their little buddy, they're happy again. 90 seconds it takes for an emotion to move physiologically through the body. So why are we repeating it again and again? Why am I feeling it? You feeling it? Whatever rejection, betrayal, struggle, over and over again? Because we keep thinking about it. So we feed the loop with our thoughts. And when we feed that loop with a negative thought like, oh my gosh, here it goes again, we begin to build a neural pathway, and without recognizing it, once again, what are we doing? Sabotaging ourselves, going right on down the negative trail. So there are ways in which you can begin to break in. And that's a much deeper topic, but I want you just to understand that you do have an ability to break in and choose a different thought. And when you choose that different thought about whatever that negative experience you had, you can actually shift the physical body and the mind to the point where you see it very differently. You experience it differently. And instead of it taking you down, it can actually even take you up. Even the tough stuff can be a preparatory to take you to a place of greater resilience and strength and tenacity as you feed the correct, more life-giving thoughts. Not pretending it didn't happen, not stuffing it, not talking about that. I'm simply talking about interpreting it in a way that gives you strength, tenacity, and resilience. That's giving you the benefit even through a difficult situation. So the mind is this amazing either minefield or amazing place to catapult from. It's either this field that's going to blow up on us and we're going to struggle and be heartsick and sabotage ourselves or allow others to sabotage us by our negative thoughts. Or it's going to catapult us beyond the difficulties into that place of resilience and tenacity. There are a few thoughts that all of us think. And I'm telling you, from CEOs to entrepreneurs to executives across the board. So I'm going to show you a couple of the thoughts everyone I know believes, thinks, and entertains within themselves. So here they are. I'm not worthy. I'm telling you, once we get down to it, it is like at the core. I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. I'm fat. I'm stupid. If only I was blank. These kinds of repetitive thoughts, I'll never get there. Something's always in my way. These repetitive thoughts are common across the board. Male, female, executive entrepreneurs, everyone I know that I've ever spoken to or worked with, down at the core, these are the ones that sort of right? Begin to sabotage because we play them again and again and again. Why? Because we begin to feel really familiar with them. And when we feel that familiar, they get in the way, they stunt our ability to reach success. So one of the ways I deal with this is I will actually come up with a positive thought. Instead of, I'm not enough, let's say, I would come into saying, I am enough. I would choose to get rid of that, and I'm going to say, I am enough. Now, it's not just that, right? Because we're talking about this mind-body connection. So if I'm feeling not enough, I'm going to do this, right? I mean, everything's going to sort of collapse if I'm feeling like I'm not enough. But if I know that I know that I know I'm enough, my shoulders go back, my voice changes, my stance changes, and my physical body actually takes on the truth of what I'm saying. Sometimes this takes practice, especially if you've been practicing I'm not enough and really dejected. You need to stand up tall and firm and confident saying, oh no, I choose to believe I am enough. Now, why is this not lying to ourselves? Well, here's the deal. My kids, I got a couple of, college age kids. Neither one of them has always felt like I've loved them. Has my love for them changed? No. So do they always believe it, feel it, sense it? Not really, not always. And so the reality didn't change that I still love them. So the fact is, you are enough. And that is the truth that you can begin to bank on, practice, and own for yourself. That's one of the ways you can begin to shift the mind, gain the strength as we are triathletes, body, mind, business, conquering crisis. Now we're going to take a look at training the business. And this might be an area some of you are brilliant in, but wait, one quick second. I'm sorry. I've got a call. Yes. Hi. Sure. Well, I'm filming something right now, but hold on one second. Right. Oh, please, just 1 minute. It's really important. Oh, right. Thank you. Yes, please feed the dog. I so appreciate it. Okay, thanks. Bye. That is the enemy right there of us being fully engaged with the power of being present. And I can tell you, I can't think of anything more that stands in the way of being productive, of building the culture that you want that has resilience and tenacity, because we are enslaved to distraction. We are allowing ourselves to be so distracted on a consistent basis that being present, being actually there for your employees, there for your executive team, there for your entrepreneurial staff, you're missing it. In fact, there for yourself, because we are all over the place. And here's the deal. You don't really multitask. It's not even humanly possible. None of us really do. We're just shifting the brain really fast to different tasks, but what happens? It actually creates anxiety. Why? What does it set off? Remember our amygdala? That's what it sets off. When we are back and forth all the time, this almond-shaped amygdala sets off the alarm, and once again, instead of being in a place of calm, an ability for us to move forward productively, to build a phenomenal, profitable, productive company, we have choked ourselves and unable to tap into the power of being present. Now, you have an opportunity to practice all of these things. In fact, the power of being present can be practiced in the car, in traffic. It can be practiced in the grocery line. It can be practiced responding to emails or even choosing not to respond to emails. We can practice these pieces all over the place in real life. But what happens is we're just anxious and moving forward and feeding the sympathetic system. Remember where we talked about that? That's the part that goes into fight, flight, or freeze. The more we practice the power of being present, the more we tap into the parasympathetic system, which does what? It gives us an ability to respond rather than react. It gives us the ability to breathe, to be resilient, to be tenacious, to experience more innovation productivity, and even profitability. However, when we choose the sympathetic system and more angst and more distraction, and we ignore the power of being present, we become all tight and find ourselves unable to optimally operate at our potential. So now let's take a quick look again back at your assessment. And again, you're going to practice, because all of this is training, coming at it from being an observer, then a judger, to being harshly judging yourself. And I want you to take a look at just a few of the things that we put down on this very short assessment for your mind, your thoughts, your self-talk, stress, mindset. Take a look, listen. Where are you in this arena? How harsh are you? My hunch is this is a place where a lot of people really do a number on themselves and self-sabotage without realizing it. Now, once you do your mind, I want you to take a quick peek at the business. What areas here feel like are out of sync for you? That you are not grasping and training yourself to your peak performance. So take a look at those. And it might be motivation, inspiration. It may be a disconnection from your purpose or your culture. Fill out this brief assessment, observing yourself. Excellent. Now, once you've done that, I want you to see which one of the three stood out to the highest level for you. Which one kind of looked like it was really off? That's the one we're going to take. And I want you to create a sticky. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stick with it. Some of you, it might be the body. And I want you to write down one, actually only one. And I'm telling you, I do this with CEOs. They get one sticky to stick with for 30 days. So for you, it might be your body. Some of you, it might be the mind. You recognize you are really harsh on yourself. And so you're going to choose to practice one aspect of the mind. For others of you, it might be your business. Tapping into the power of being present. Whichever one you choose, you get one. And I want you to hold on to that one and practice that regardless of how you feel for 30 days, that one simple action step. And then move on through the assessment and finding you have an opportunity in that assessment to write down what kinds of things will stand in your way, could be obstacles for you reaching that potential. What other things do you need in order to motivate you or to get you to the finish line, building that muscle and strength? Ultimately, we are all about training for this triathlon so that we can conquer crisis. I was hiking Mount Crystalite, and it was an amazing experience in Colorado and absolutely a gorgeous day. And I'm at the back of the line, and there's quite a few people on this amazing hike. And I came up to this young man, Cameron, who happens to be sitting on the ground holding his chest. All right, he's terrified. And I'm like, okay. And I see his posse around him. And I come to discover that Cameron is the star football player, the star basketball player. He is like the stud. And yet he is on the ground, gripping his chest in full on terror. His posse are like, kind of don't know what to do. And I walk up and say, hey, can I help? What's going on? And Cameron shares that he's absolutely terrified of heights. But we're on this path that like is 3 times wider than my arms right now. And I'm like, okay. And there's no drastic fall. Nowhere is there a drastic edge to this hike. And yet Cameron is gripped with fear. I did everything I could, used every tool I had for my coaching and motivational speaking, and I can't budge him. So what do? What any self-respecting woman would do with kids. Do you want to hold my hand? Because you're going up. And he said, yeah. So for the next 2.5 hours, I am hiking up Mount Crystalite with this stud athlete holding his hand. And we're talking, getting to know each other, getting his mind off of it. And we make it, we make substantial traction until we are so close to the top. He collapses again. He is just shattered, terrified at this point. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And now I've won the right to be heard. We are close, and he is completely terrified. Now, the path had gotten smaller, thinner, we understand that, got a little more intense. I understand that too, but he'd made it so far. So I had to pull out the big guns, Cameron, you look at me. When you are on the football field, are you thinking when you are running for a touchdown, are you thinking to yourself, I'm not going to make it? No, your head is in the game. When you're shooting a basket and it is up to you for the winning point, what are you thinking? Are you thinking, I can't make it, I'm terrified? No, your head is in the game. And I said, right now, Cameron, your head is going to get in the game. And you're going to get up that mountain, because you know what? You are in better shape than 99.9 people of the people that are trying to hike up this. Now get on. And he stood up and started running up the mountain. It was amazing. We got to the top. I could barely catch up with him. But when we got to the top, he knew that he had brought his mind into alignment with his body. And his business was to get to the top of Mount Crystallite, and he did. So what did that do to him? He faced his greatest fear, and he made it to the top. He pushed through it because he brought and practiced bringing all three into sync. Well, that is my challenge to you and me, that as we face the crises that are around us, that we will conquer those crises because we are training like a triathlete, body, mind, and business.